7 years on, and almost every year since, we are witnessing a governor facing impeachment. We are witnessing a county government facing corruption allegations. According to the Constitution, Chapter 11, Section 1A, county governor may be removed from office on any of the following grounds. A. Gross violation of this Constitution or any other law. B. Where there are serious reasons for believing that the county governor has committed a crime under national or international law. And C. Abuse of office or gross misconduct or physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of office of the county governor. Today, it's Nairobi governor facing impeachment proceedings, but this governor is not the first. This we call the litmus test on devolution. Good evening tonight on the 17th day of December, just days to the end of the year. So glad you've walked and talked the journey together with us. The show is Tipping Point and you're just in time for it. I'm Lincoln Wambogo and our sign language interpreters are Teresia Washira and Michael Maithia. With the nurses and clinical officers strike entering the second week, there's still no deal with their employers nor an end in sight to the suffering of patients who rely on public health care. This even as doctors are set to commence their strike in 5 days. We will also recap the just concluded MSAMBWENI by-elections that also brought life to the very tantalizing document, the BBR report. Did Ruto's man Faisal Badr win in MSAMBWENI mean anything to the BBR report? To answer this and to help us dissect this BBI puzzle and understand the devolution government, joining me tonight will be Chiragani, Member of Parliament, who will come in just a bit, Joshua Kituni, Embakasi North Member of Parliament, James Lekuya, and Ruth Mbogo, a youth policy and governance specialist. You can also join me by catching a seat and engaging us via our SMS line 111 on my social media handles at Lincoln Wambogo and at SWITCHTVKENYA. And to kick us off is our question of the day. Is the Senate biased on these impeachment hearing processes? Is the Senate biased on these impeachment hearing processes? Let's keep this show as interactive as possible. To answer our question and to share your feedback, you can engage us via SMS line 111 or on my social media handles at Lincoln Wambogo and at SWITCHTVKENYA. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in the Senate.
I think it's only fair as a good example that at the very least, those authorities should have been availed to his junior counsel who long before, so that we avoid this idea that you are ambushing them with legal authority, because the idea of submitting authority is that your colleagues should have an opportunity of looking for counter authority. You are disadvantaging them to some extent because they are going to comment on your authorities as opposed to producing counter authorities. But there is really no harm, because we have set precedent and there's legal authority. But the only objection, and I think in future, Madam Speaker, we're going to request these councils in future to do written submissions with the authorities in future, so that then, even for our purposes, the non-lawyers can also benefit from the wisdom of these authorities. Some of us might understand these legal authorities, but not everybody is a lawyer in this chamber. I hope, Madam Speaker, and with the wisdom of Senator Wetangula, who is our senior, and most likely more senior than anybody else except Senator Wako, I think there is reason in trying to balance it so that nobody says they were not given an opportunity. We have sat here for a whole day. I don't think the authority will take 1 hour.
Thank you, Senators. I think everybody is leaning towards let's allow them to introduce. Whoever would like to use the authorities will use them, but priority will be given again to the council, to the county assembly. Please read. I will give you 10 minutes. I better be precise now. That's going to be 10 minutes. So you read them and prepare your reactions towards those authorities.
Now we can start with the question of the day. Honorable Gakuya, thanks for coming. Ruth Mbogo, thank you for coming. It's good to have you. Joshua Kutunyi will be joining us in just a bit. Is the Senate biased on these impeachment hearing processes? Honorable Gakuya, maybe we can start with you. What's your take on your governor's impeachment?
Well, let me say that senators are only doing what they have been empowered or what they have been entitled to do by the Constitution. The Constitution has given clear mandate for these offices, because we have what we call 3 bodies. This is executive and this is parliament, and we have the judiciary, where the parliament is National Assembly and Senate. Senate has their mandate, because their mandate is very clear, that their role is to deal with issues towards what we call devolution. And issue matters to do with what we call governance petitions. I believe the Constitution has mandated them to be the final whistle, as after every other county makes what we call the first kickstart of a process toward that. And this particular case of Nairobi governor, it's not new, because we have seen various other number of governors where the Senate has finally have their mandate to prosecute the matter and give an independent outcome. In this particular case, I would say they are not biased as we may think. They are doing what they are doing is they are prosecuting their duty, and what they should do. The biasness comes when one decides very nasty against you. But if you are given an opportunity to respond, I think you are hard. And then what democracy says, and this is what happens in our courts, is that we have the defense and we have the prosecution. And both has to put their what we call evidence on the table. And the work of the judge is to determine between the evidence placed or put on the table by either side, which side he thinks that it carries the weight of the day.
So,
in this particular case, the Senate
is not biased.
Is not biased.
What do you think, Ruth? Is the Senate biased? Not just in this hearing, but other proceedings too. We've
actually
seen
that's
Governor Igoro and Waitito and Embus Wambora. Do you think the Senate is biased in any way?
That's exactly the point I was going to get to. You know, the Senate ideally is supposed to be the defenders. They're supposed to be the defenders of devolution. They're supposed to protect devolution. They're supposed to ensure that, you know, county governments individually as senators from their own counties are supposed to ensure that county governments are functioning properly, are delivering on their mandate, and generally as a house they are supposed to protect devolution, which is a concept that we as Kenyans hoped that would work for us. In the past, there have been allegations that the Senate has been biased in certain cases. We've had, I mean, Kenyans were generally dissatisfied by their performance in the case of Anne Waiguru. I mean, personally, I expected a totally opposite result from what I saw. So
you expected her to be impeached?
I expected. I'm not saying that. I mean, she was exonerated by the Senate, but I did not expect that to happen. And I think millions of Kenyans share in this sentiment. But we've seen them work also in other cases, such as Waitito's case. They delivered a judgment, and based on the allegations, they were able to impeach him, and Waitito is out, which a lot of Kenyans also thought was fair. You know, so I think it's usually a question of we are waiting to see the end. And today, I mean tonight, if they get to vote tonight, I'm also waiting to see the end of this, because I mean we've had complaints ever since the first term of Governor Sonko, and the complaints have run into the second term. Some of us have seen, we've all witnessed the drama that has been taking place in Nairobi County government. So as a Kenyan, I would be definitely surprised if things turn out. I'm not trying to preempt what the turnout should be, but I mean from the allegations, it's preposterous what has been happening in Nairobi County, and any reasonable Kenyan would expect that the senators would uphold their duty and be able to rule in favor of, I mean, come up with a ruling that would actually favor the interests of the mwananchi, which is service delivery to the people.
So in the past, Ruth, to answer my question,
yes,
has the Senate been biased before?
So for me, it's a case of it's been on a case-to-case basis. There have been cases where I have felt that they've done their part, and there are cases where I honestly thought that things would have turned out, you know, I mean, would have turned out the opposite from what they did turn out to be.
Where we had a committee or a plenary, what?
In all cases, we've heard of allegations of whether there's a plenary or whether there's a committee. We've all heard of cases where you're told that, you know, senators were either paid to vote in a particular way, whatever the case. So we are just waiting for the outcome for this particular case.
My good friend, I can tell you, politics are politics worldwide. We have seen a process where the biggest office in the land, which is Trump's office, was under impeachment. And after every process was underway, you found that there was a certain house where he enjoyed the numbers, and the numbers stood with him. Then don't. Politics are politics.
You know the question.
As we speak of the BBI today, we are speaking of BBI driven politically.
Yes.
And this is a wave.
The question is that are these numbers organic? That's the question. Are these numbers organic?
What I'd like to ask Honorable Gakuya is, Embakasi North is in Nairobi County.
Yeah.
What's your take on your governor's impeachment motion? Is it long overdue? Did you expect it to happen?
One is that, in fact, this is a choice of Nairobi. What I can tell you is that actually choices has consequences. And if there is anybody who is going what you call a Makelod, is that Nairobian, who expected to elect a populist just to get what we call magic as a result. There's no way. And that's why Nairobi has, if Nairobi, and it's very important to have what we call case study. This is a running process that Nairobian, if they are not going to run with this, it's up to them. Because you either decide whether you need a manager to manage your resources, or either you bring a drama person whom you accept drama all the way. And there is nothing much you expect from Sonko.
So you're saying Sonko's impeachment was long overdue?
I can say, let me tell you, I can tell you for sure, I cannot stand here to say that Sonko deserves to be impeached. Because he was put in office by Nairobians. And let me tell you, he needs to enjoy his term. Yes, because who should suffer is Nairobians. Because they are the people who made a wrong mistake. But not the Sonko. They knew Sonko very well before giving him the mandate. Yes, at this particular time, I would say they can blame themselves. They can't blame Sonko.
Nairobians.
Yes, yes, they made wrong choice. And then a wrong choice has a consequence. And what they are doing now, they are suffering out of that mistake. And what I can tell you, tomorrow, Sonko today, is not mandatory that he must face the axe. He can survive. He can survive the axe tonight. And let me tell you for sure. If in case, because I'm not casting my vote, that vote is casted by what we call delegates. The delegates, I don't know whether they are lined up toward a certain direction or not. But politically, you cannot with those things. Those waves are there.
With what you said, Honorable Gakuya, what if you find that actually your constituency, Embakasi North, voted in Governor Sonko 100%? But anyway, that's on a light note.
You know, I almost lost my seat because of being against the side of the Sonko wave. Because me, I was supporting as somebody that I was seeing becoming a manager who was Peter Kenneth. And that one, it made me to lose my ticket, my nomination. Yes, it all came back with a miracle through the power of the people. My friend.
Was it necessary in the first place to devolve Nairobi County?
I think it's a bit too late to ask that question because so you're asking whether Nairobi County should have been managed by the national government in the first place.
Yes.
To be honest, I was actually of that particular, when that idea started coming in with the first wave of BBI, I was actually excited at the thought of it because Nairobi County is literally the hub, the economic hub of this country, you know. It's literally what holds and sustains, it majorly holds and sustains the country in terms of the economy. And so when you leave it to the choice of people, you know how we as Nairobians, I mean Nairobians, we are known to elect the craziest of people. Look at the kind of members of parliament that some of the constituencies have elected. Members of parliament who go around brandishing guns in clubs and walking away freely as they wish. Members of parliament who, you know, engage in insultive language and do nothing else other than social media and basically do not deliver on their mandate. So I think we should have thought about that when we were devolving Nairobi County, and I was a bit excited. I hoped that proposition would have stuck into the BBI report because I was willing to see change. You know, I was willing to see what the national government would have done with the leadership of Nairobi County. Look at what NMS is currently doing, and NMS is pretty much, you know, national government taking over the leadership of Nairobi County. We can see how service delivery has been quite effective ever since that happened. So that alone should give us, you know, the thought process should make us think that, I mean, maybe we could do this differently. Maybe Nairobi County should pretty much revert back to the national government.
A contrary opinion.
Why a contrary opinion? Even before that, I mean, why is the president interfering with the operations of Nairobi?
The president is not interfering with the operations
by bringing NMS.
No,
we've seen Sonko, you know, take it to social media and say the president gave him something. He was given something at State House.
Only what I can tell you,
he signed
and I
off
would like to tell all the
he
viewers.
Signed off Nairobi.
Yes. That the viewers does not come from space. Viewers belongs to this city, most of them, and the rest belong to this particular country. And let me tell you, the Sonko was not under gun. when he was signing what we call transfers of faction at the State House. This particular process took two spontaneous days. There was a time when it was given time to go to what we call public participation, and then after that, then there was the second and final process. If somebody felt that actually he's ambushed, at that particular time there was a window, yes, to say, no, I won't accomplish this. How do I commit myself? Because surely, as a manager of the capital city of Nairobi, I believe that you are not alone on your way. You have what you call men and women of wisdom, where you can consult before taking any move. Because here you have legal team, you have administrative team, and you have other smart political team that can advise you. Going this way, you are going the wrong direction. And I'm telling you, City was in what we call at the Haina, at that particular time and moment when it was taken by the national government. Because you know very well Sonko give Nairobian music, telling us that he's collecting millions and millions. That was the song. But in terms of performance, there was nothing we could experience on the ground. The roads were shattered. Actually, most of the Nairobi roads, they were like, they were hit by bomb. For surely, yes.
Compared to Kidero's tenure,
Sonko did nothing. And I can tell you for sure, just even today, NMS is failing somewhere. There is an area that they are not addressing. Because I have seen what garbages are back in the streets, garbages are back to the roads. And this is a tradition that has gone down. We would like to see those kind of threads going to an end, because actually Nairobi have run what we call a tradition of a new manager, and we have given what we call NMS a big thump. And we believe that actually this is a safe year for the city, for the time. And what we're saying, whether the Sonko is there or not, as long as we are enjoying these services under the umbrella of the national government, we are good to go. Because Sonko can be able to head up his term and he's not interfering. Only what we would say is that if there is a policy that is not really anchoring well, what we call the linkage of disbursements of resources from the treasury from the treasury to the NMS, that route has to be cleaned. Because we cannot allow an area where Sonko will be dealing with this music anytime when the budgets are here, he don't want on the budget, he don't want to lose the money. We cannot go that route. We must look for a mechanism where NMS will enjoy a clear route of disbursement of resources right from the treasury.
Now contradict Ruth's statement, what Ruth said.
Yeah, what I was saying.
NMS is doing a good job.
Yes. And only what I was saying is that, in fact, it is not necessary to abolish the position of the governor for the city. And therefore, I am not of those who thought that actually taking the mandate completely to the national government is the way to go. Kibaki took to this country when the economy was at negative, but he was a manager somewhere. And therefore, Nairobi also, there are the managers somewhere. Kidero might have failed. And also Sonko has failed. But does not mean that the future governors will fail the city. And therefore, we must not reverse what we benefit from the Constitution. And no, we can't allow us as a city to lose that. Right. Then we have to remain with that. And what we must do is make sure that Nairobi we must link back, go back to the box, think twice before we cast our vote and deciding who is becoming our next governor. We have just made sure that Nairobi is not a tribal, because we have chosen Kidero and we have chosen Sonko. Those are two different tribes. And let me tell you, this tells Nairobians are smart and sober on that. Then what we must become sober more is now electing the right person.
Ruth.
Well,
Please.
For me, I think Sonko's leadership is what has made a lot of Kenyans start having thoughts about whether we really want to have our major cities and Nairobi County, to be specific, and our governor, because we really don't know. And for me, I'm telling you, voters are very interesting people. We really don't know who else will be elected into office in the coming 2022 elections. So for me, I'd like to say that based on how the national government rather based on how NMS is running Nairobi County, personally as an individual, I'd say, given an option today, right now, given an option of whether I'd want Nairobi County to be led by a governor, I'd say, you know what, I'd rather NMS carries and takes over the day. But it doesn't mean that we do not have people or persons who are capable of actually running Nairobi County efficiently. The question is, do we trust the voters to actually put to the table, or rather bring on board persons who will actually deliver? And delivery when it comes to leadership, I don't know what happens to our voters. And it's almost all across board, even in other counties, not just Nairobi County. You look at people who are actually qualified to lead, persons with great agenda, people with a great history of having led in various corporations, people who are tried and tested for leadership, putting themselves up for leadership. By what do we vote for? We vote for populists. We vote for people who can move masses. We vote for people who can give us money, So at the end of the day, the question is that will we, when the time comes for us to vote again, when the time comes for us to vote again, will it be the same? Is it called same forest, different monkeys, or same monkey, different forest? Whichever the concept. But will we be given another chance to vote for a proper leadership? But then, because we are so used to populist politics, because we are so used to money politics, we will end up again voting for another clown, That's the question.
Thank you. It's time for a short break.
Allow me just a second.
No second. Is the Senate biased on this impeachment hearing process? SMS your feedback on 111 444 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and link on Bogo, all my social media handles. The conversation continues after this short commercial break. Welcome back. My name is Lincoln Ombogo, and the show you're watching is Tipping Point right here on Switch TV. Sending your feedback to our SMS line 111 444 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Ombogo on all my social media handles. The question we are asking tonight: do you think the Senate is biased in these proceedings that are happening now? Joining me in studio is Ruth Ombogo, policy and governance expert, and Mheshimiwa James Kikuyu, Embakasi North Member of Parliament. Our sign language interpreters are Michael Maithia and Teresia Washira. Now, what happens to Nairobi if Sonko is impeached?
Because one thing that Sonko did was that he really tried to frustrate his impeachment process. When his deputy resigned, I think he got some pretty good advisors who told him that if you don't appoint another one, then impeaching you will be a long process. Because I think at that particular time they were probably thinking that for Nairobi County to go into an election, the whole process about going into an election, one would want to avoid an election as much as possible within Nairobi County. So he did all that he could, but now that here we are, and in case the impeachment goes through, I think what happens is that the speaker is supposed to take over for the next, is it 60 or 90 days? 60 days, yeah. as we prepare for a by-election in Nairobi County. So if it's 60 days, then I'm guessing that a by-election, is it now 90 days after the impeachment that the by-election takes place? Yeah, if I'm please correct me if I'm wrong. That 90 days later we are now to have a by-election in Nairobi County. So chances are we might have a by-election. But when you look at it, the timeline between that particular time, because that's next year, yes, and the next election is pretty much a very short period of time. So I don't know what will happen. So maybe the case will be dragged on into court for a period of time until 2022 arrives, and we have no option but to go for elections just within the normal schedule. But I don't know. So I don't know what will happen, because I think as much as possible the government might want to try and avoid having elections, especially now that we have BBI coming in, and Nairobi is sort of like a central county, unlike other counties such as Machakos that is having a by-election and other constituencies that are having by-elections. Nairobi County politics, is very high octane, yeah? And at the same time, remember that there'll be campaigns for BBI in case the referendum is taking place as scheduled, because the schedule for BBI is indicating that we are supposed to have a referendum around June, and that's pretty much around the same time that the Nairobi County by-elections will be taking place. So politically, you know how our country manages to come up with political solutions to problems. So we might not, in my view, we might not go the legal way of, the constitutional way of doing things. We might just find ourselves having a sort of like a gap in between that will be filled in politically somehow, and then have elections in 2022.
Honorable Gakuya, IEBC, what is supposed to occur is that IEBC, the deputy governor is supposed to take over, but IEBC says that they did not receive an official resignation from Polycarp Igathe, so now the speaker will take over. What next for Nairobi? NMS, you don't really like NMS, but NMS maybe may have some time. Do you think NMS will just run the county until 2022?
One thing what I can tell you, Nairobi has no vacuum. As far as the big area of service delivery is concerned, it's well taken care by the NMS. And I think for us to come and conclude this issue of deficiency is that we need to bring back the ministry, which was Metropolitan Ministry, so that it can do every other subsidy that this county is not doing, and also that Kajiado County is not doing, and also subsidy within the neighboring Kiambu and so on. So I think for us to have an area where monies are not going to bring conflict is only when we have a ministry in place. But if it is this particular NMS an agency, it will be having a lot of trouble, because constitutionally the money has to be changed through the county government. And this money to come from the accounts of the county government to the NMS, those are mountains. And surely, I would see a very good willing by the NMS to do the service delivery. But they may be dragged behind by those technicalities, those bureaucracies. So in order for us to move out of these bureaucracies, because we may not have a law that will line us towards that particular deficiency, I believe out of the 22 number of the constitutional cabinet positions, we demand that. And the president promised us that he will give us back that particular ministry. I don't know what happened. And therefore, I would urge whoever will take over after the president, consider Nairobi giving it back that particular ministry, because it will do any other subsidy in case we have a careless governor tomorrow. But what we must do is that, because this is public resources that we are talking about, we must have clear mechanisms that actually punishes, and that gives what we call red card to governors, so that they can, whenever they are in office, they must in the back of their mind understand that they are only there to look after public resources. These are public offices, and what they require in the offices, they're just guardian of the public resource. Therefore, we don't require to have those we call musicals every other day. And as Madam has stated, we don't require every other day to change forest. But what we are doing is that it's the same monkey is moving out from this one to the next. Then you try to have the same cycle. We need to come out of this cycle, and that's why I'm telling Nairobi, this is a big case study. Tomorrow, let us decisively go for a person that we have an experience. He can be able to lead this city out of the troubles we are undergoing.
Honorable Gakuya and Ruth, there's a conversation that we are having when we went for a short break, looking at...
But Igathe, in short,
yes,
he may not come anywhere. So I can tell you for sure. This one is, he cannot enjoy it. I am telling you immediately he tries to come back.
Honorable Gakuya does not want this conversation at all.
You find very many activists in court. Listen, that.
Listen, Honorable Gakuya and Ruth. Now,
yes,
when you go to social media, you look at what the NMS has been doing in Nairobi, especially the CBD, like recarpeting of roads and other multiple projects. Kenyans from other counties, and not one Kenyan, many Kenyans have been commenting and saying, let our counties also be handled by the military as well. Now, the question is devolution under threat? Are governors threatening devolution themselves? If these Kenyans, if what they're saying is anything to go by, Ruth?
You know, governors across the country have really, in quite a number of counties, have really let down their people. I'll give you a case study of Vihiga County, which is where I come from and where I hope to be a representative of at some point.
Congratulations when you get that.
Thank you. Vihiga County is an interesting county because even as we are complaining about, currently what is presently preoccupying a lot of Kenyans' minds, of concern to a lot of Kenyans, is the doctors' issues and issues about payment of doctors and remuneration of doctors and safety of doctors and basically the welfare of doctors across the country. And one looks at how county governments have handled the same within their counties, and I look at Vihiga County, nurses have not been paid for over 15 months. Go to the neighboring county, Kakamega County. Just the other day, I witnessed, I think as the senator was going around and just assessing the state of healthcare facilities within Kakamega County in terms of just basically looking at the complaints that the people had in terms of the preparation for COVID-19 and how Kakamega County recently became affected by COVID-19 in terms of the number of people they were losing due to COVID-19. And you look at how these governors handle their issues, and some of them even end up being voted as the best governors. But when you look at basic service delivery within their counties, basic payment of county government workers, forget about even nurses and doctors, just, you know, county government employees are not paid, contractors are not paid, nothing is proceeding, nothing is going on within the counties. And it's really, it boils down to the question of who are we voting for as our governors. At some point I would want to agree with him when he says that, you know, when we vote for certain people and we vote for clowns and expect miracles, what exactly are we expecting, you know? But then again, even when we fail to get the result of the kind of people that we voted for, or we fail to get the leadership that we expected when we put in place these people, we also forget that we do have the power to recall these people. So then again, the question becomes, what's the function of MCAs? Because at the end of the day, there's somebody who is supposed to keep these governors in check, you know? And you would expect that if they're failing the people, if they're not delivering on their services, if they're not delivering on their functions and duties, then members of county assembly should be able to go through the process of impeaching them, or rather putting them on their toes and getting them to work. So it's a whole system of beginning from we as the voters voting for the wrong people when we have the best choices of people who are vying for those particular seats whenever elections come, voting in clowns and voting in people who are, you know, theatrical and expecting miracles. And then once we get there again, voting in persons who are supposed to ensure that these people are kept in check and are delivering on their functions, who are not playing their part, you know. And then again, at the end of the day, we failing when another chance is given to us to vote in different people, again still voting in the same people. So I think I understand when people say that they would wish that their counties were taken over by some form of, because NMS is Nairobi Metropolitan, some form of, you know, some form of structure that's not necessarily one that is run by governors. But clearly we really need to do better the next time we are given a chance to pick who is supposed to run our affairs.
Thank you, Ruth. Honorable Gakuya, you know, when you say devolution is under threat, and we see these conversations come up when we have such proceedings like what we have with Sonko's impeachment motion, but who is really threatening devolution? Is it the governors themselves? Is it the people? Or is it the national government?
This is a matter that we have been watching it for a time, and very good that actually is that we have a full considered term of governor that has lapsed. Then we have seen there are those who managed to come back, their second term, their second term, and those who lost. But to me, what I would say is that the concept of the county government, it's like we created another small president. So these guys, it's like they consumed a lot of powers, and then they are all leading with egos. Because I don't see why. Me, you know, I have worked with the council of Nairobi 2 terms. When the mayor of the city was a ceremonial, and let me tell you, there were no problems. Actually, things were surely there was element of consultation, and things were not happening haphazardly. So I also still believe governor is a human being. And let me tell you, the people who are slept on their job are the MCAs. Because let me tell you, they should not last the 11th hour.
Yeah.
Yes, when the cuts and the deals are gone so. Yes. Because surely they are the people who have entertained these people.
So MCAs
and these are the only people
Yeah.
who can be able to clip the horns of these governors and nobody else. And let me tell you, if they can start to do their job, they should not wait for the Auditor General to come to give out reports, because there is no single element of budget they don't know. Because those budgets of the county government, they all belong to their wards. So every single MCA knows what they approved in that particular year's budget belonging to his ward. So he's the person who should come out first and say, what happened after we approved this road? Yeah. It's not happening. What happened after we approved this water project? It's not happening. But the guys are just there. I don't know whether they went. It's like it's a walk on the.
You know, and I think just to add on to what he's spoken about, and I think the reason why the MCAs are not doing their job per se is because MCAs are pretty much powerless. You know, MCAs across the country rely on governors for handouts. Their people expect them to, because you know the ordinary mwananchi does not know the difference between what an MCA should, the roles of an MCA and what a governor should be doing. So on the ground, an MCA has pressure from the people that, you know, we are not seeing you, hatuoni ukijenga barabara. They expect that the MCA should be the one constructing roads. They expect that the MCA is the one who should be ensuring that their hospitals are basically staffed up. They expect that the MCA is the one who should ensure that infrastructural projects such as schools are built, you know. So at the end of the day, an MCA is facing pressure from the people that they represent, and then now they have to rely on governors for handouts. And so it's basically a whole cycle where a governor knows that if I have MCAs in my pocket, there's nowhere I'm going, you know, there's nothing that you can do to me. So I think we really need to, and that's where the question of auditing our devolved system of government is something that I would like to agree with Mheshimiwa, that we need to sit down and ask ourselves how effective is our county government. And I thought, for instance, that, you know, with BBI coming on board and telling us that members of county assembly will now have a ward fund that they control, that ensures that they can also be able to run their projects, is one way of strengthening devolution, is one way of giving MCAs power to be able to execute their duties and functions effectively.
Now let us change gear to MSAMBWENI by-elections. I know Honorable Gakuye is excited about this. You know, and Ruto had something to say to Faisal.
But I can tell you, I was so good in that particular debate, because that's where we belong. We are fighting for service delivery. And me, I am very keen to see that particular achievement of service delivery, because that's why we elect government. Otherwise, why do we waste time?
Ruto said, congratulations, my friend Faisal Bader. Your win cements our trust in God and the people.
Wow.
What do you say, Kijana? Which one? Faisal. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for you guys? His win.
Anyway, what I can say...
Does this by any chance shape up 2022 politics? Honorable Gakuye.
I am telling you, you should learn. This is a case study. You should learn what the mind of Wanjiku is there down. Because, you know, this was out of protest. And let me tell you, losing Bonanga, losing Naivasha, and losing MSAMBWENI, was a statement from Wanjiku saying, I am doing it in protest. In protest. Nimechoka na wewe serikali. Sijui vile hii kijana wetu waliweza kujipanga.
What do you think?
I think that was a very brief commentary. I expected more. But anyway, I think if we are to say that if we are to judge whether this campaign is a litmus test for BBI referendum, we'd be lying to ourselves. Every other by-election that has taken place is usually a test for something that never really comes, you know. So I think let's just take it as it is. It was a by-election. Kuna people who prepared themselves, as they say in Kiswahili, walijipanga. People who walijipanga better than the others, and they won, you know. So I think what happened is that there was a lot of things going on within the ODM faction of things. One of them being that they at some point probably got overconfident, you know, and at some point they forgot that this politics was really about local politics, you know, that all politics is local politics. But even that notwithstanding, we really need to look at the nitty-gritties of what happened in that particular by-election, you know. The claims that there was a lot of money that was poured on the ground from the other side, but pretty much there was too much at play. You know, this is a by-election that was coming in the middle of a BBI referendum that was being pretty much sold as an idea to the people, an idea that not very many people people were just getting to warm up to it just yet, you know. So there was that at play. There was the fact that too much just happened at Msambweni
were
by-election.
chaos,
But
there were
I would not say that this is the litmus test for how the BBI referendum will turn out, you know.
Who caused chaos?
One thing that I can tell you for sure, the systems were totally against the independent candidate. Right from the day to the night to the election, about half of his agents were arrested. After that, what you did so is that there was a lot of issues and queues at a point where the former senator for Machakos was arrested. And at some point, you realize that Joho was almost kicking or slapping that kijana, that member for Jitopevu. And that tells you that, in fact, if no any single action was taken to all these skirmishes, it tells you that there is those who enjoys the power. And I can tell you for sure, if Mudama can sleep in a cell, and Joe can sleep comfortably at his parlor, it tells you that then we are cheating ourselves. There are those who are dining and who are dining around the corridors of power. And
those who are privileged.
And allow me to finalize my last comment on that. I just want to state this very clear. I really want to concur with the madam, but I just want also to have a reservation in one point, that let us not cheat ourselves that there was anybody strongly bashing money in that particular campaign other than the system. The system has money and has everything. At the end of the day, they raise a point where they tear gas everybody, and at putting a certain positions in the police took away the ballots. But let me tell you, people were so tough. They hanged at that particular vehicle to the end, and therefore that's the kind of determination that we win. But that particular result was to be overturned. It is that there was no an element of a window to do that.
Ruth, do you agree with Mheshimiwa Gikuya that there's some people who have certain privileges when it comes to execution of law?
Well, it's not
everywhere.
It is not a new concept anyway.
It happens.
It is not a new concept anyway. But for me, I think what I'd like to focus my attention mostly on is the strategy that ODM probably adopted and where they most likely failed, you know, and it's something that even their leaders themselves have accepted, that, you know, at some point we saw them focusing mostly on major rallies when the opponent was going pretty much door to door, you know. So I think this has got less to do with the system and more to do with the strategies and what everybody unleashed as their strategy on the ground. Yeah.
What about losing Gaturi, losing Naivasha, Jubilee, Party?
I wish we had more time, but that is the end of Tipping Point. The conversation continues next Thursday. Many thanks for watching. My name is Lincoln Obogo, and thank you, my guests tonight, Honorable James Gikuya and Ruth Mbogo, sign language interpreters, Michael Maitha and Teresia Washira, and of course my producers, starting with Frederick Muitiriri and Daniel Karaoke and Clifford Doby. Good evening.